Welcome to Scoop World. It is a Bloody Tuesday edition. The Indiana game is in the rearview mirror. We get the Youngstown State Penguins coming to town on Saturday in what was sure to be a huge beatdown. Really excited about this show. We're going to break down a little bit of JT Tuimalal's film, why he was the defensive player of the game, why he was dominant. Again, this is a very tough deal statistically because there was not a lot of dropback passes, not a lot of opportunity for pass rush. We still had pressures, still played the triple option very well, which is why he was defensive player of the game. Denzel Burke overall the overall best player in the game. So it's going to be really interesting to break all this down. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, bringing the heat, bringing the questions. Myself and Nevadabuck are very grateful for you guys. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click that little like thumbs up. Leave us or click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell if you enjoy our live shows. Shout out where you guys are watching from. I saw Naples, Florida. I saw Chillicothe, Ohio. I saw Portsmouth. So wherever you guys are watching from, shout it out in the comments below. And I want to know, what do you expect to see week 2? Devin Brown, does he get more than 6 snaps? Does he get 50% of snaps? What do you want to see? What do you expect to see, and what do you want to see? So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's like the game, for as fans, I'm telling you, if you really want to know what's going on in the games and you really want to understand what's going on in the games, you really want to be educated, I've found you got to watch the games over at least a couple of times to really see what's going on, because a lot of times your first impressions of a game can be off. And I can tell you, like this week, my first impressions of the game, I'm on watching, and my immediate reaction was, man, I didn't think JT Tuimalal did all that much. Same thing about Jackson. I thought they were fine, but I didn't feel like they took that big step dominance forward. And then when on the rewatch, I went back and watched, and I'm like, man, they were a lot better than I thought they were. And I think that's kind of a prime example and kind of a cautionary tale for me to, like, you got to watch the tapes a couple of times. You've really got to focus on the players. You've really got to understand the context, the situations, what's going on with the games, and do that before you make any snap judgments. Because I'm telling you, I didn't think JT played that well as on initial blush, and upon review played really well. So this was an education for me, and a good reminder for all of us.
Well, I think that when you play defensive end or defensive line, especially defensive end, though, your overall perceived value to the team that day, your overall stat line is just so heavily weighted towards how many sacks you get. So when you have 0 sacks, people think that you stunk, you didn't do good, you get no pressure. But with what Indiana did, I mean, Indiana was not trying to win the game. They were trying to shorten the game and not lose 77-10. They were trying to, let's get out of here. Let's get it 23-3. Like 23-3 for Indiana is a massive victory. If you're the defensive coordinator, at Indiana, Matt Kiriani, who's the guy who was sat in our office last year working for Ryan Day, Jim Knowles' disciple, he's lighting a victory cigar. He's like, hey, I can see that I held the number 1 offense in the country to 23 points, and I held Marvin and Emeka to 34 yards. And Tom Allen's a defensive guy, and he's saying the same thing. Like, they weren't trying to win the game. They're trying to run the ball. They weren't trying to stretch the field. They weren't trying to test our DBs particularly well. So, they were pulling out the gimmicks and the stops, but they wanted to make sure that this was a low-scoring game, and it was. So it was kind of a bloody game, kind of a tough game. They knew they were outgunned, outmanned, especially on the edges. So, hey, let's just run the ball and take advantage of these new clock rules and get out of here. Nevada, who are some guys that you think need to step up as we get into week 2? Obviously, our guards, Donnie Jackson, Matt Jones, are probably the 2 most disappointing guys on the team for me. And this is not dogging them. This is just real. I mean, in reality, I watched that film. They watched that film. I'm sure that that's not the kind of tape they want to put on the mark for NFL GMs, personnel guys, O-line coaches are going to be watching it this week. Who are some guys that need to step up and play better? And who are some guys that need to play more, starting with Devin Brown, that you think Ryan Day needs to say, hey, let's get some of these guys in the game a little bit more?
Well, I mean, the first thing is our wide receivers has got to block better. I mean, our wide receivers, and that sounds like just kind of a cliche. We've spent time breaking this down this week for people, and you can see how important it is. Wide receiver blocking is not just some sort of like extra bonus thing. I think sometimes people look at it and they're like, oh, that's kind of like an extra thing that you do after you've caught the ball and ran for touchdowns. And like, but no, and part of the OSU offense, blocking's essential, especially for the wide receivers that they're dragging into the box. If you're not a good blocker and you're not effective at the point of attack, then it's going to really struggle. The offense is going to struggle. And I think about guys like, throughout history of Ohio State, like Evan Spencer, or guys in the NFL like Alan Lazard, that are just devastating blockers for the wide receiver position. And those guys are keys to making offenses go. And I think it's for Ohio State. It's easy to talk about Simmons. It's easy to talk about Donnie. It's easy to talk about Matt Jones as guys that didn't play particularly well. We can talk about Trey Henderson, who's 3.9 per carry, or Mike Williams, who's 3.6, or whatever. But like wide receiver blocking, backup tight end blocking, even starting tight, even Cade, who had a terrific game, missed some big blocks as well. And I just think we've got to get some more consistent performances blocking from those positions if we're going to run the kind of offense that we do. And I think if we do that, and I believe we can, then I think a lot of things can improve in a hurry. And our running game would be a big benefactor of some better blocking on the perimeter and on the edge.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that's something that is a deficit right now. I think that guys like Marvin and Emeka, they're in NFL mode. They're in self-preservation mode. They don't want to get their nails dirty. They don't want to get their purses scratched up, so they don't want to block anybody. And it hurts our perimeter runs. It hurts the ability to extend runs. I think that, I play with Santonio Holmes. If you guys are going to go watch a guy block, go watch Santonio versus Notre Dame when we ran that end around to Ted, and he about killed a linebacker. I mean, he had been targeting, ejected, suspended for the rest of the season for that hit that he threw, but Tone wasn't scared, and Gonzo'd mix it up. Hartline was a fantastic blocker on the edge. But I think that they're in this NFL mode, this NFL mentality where, again, you can go watch Sunday Ticket, go watch Justin Jefferson, go watch Jamar Chase. Those guys, when they're out on the edge on the NFL Sunday and it's a run play, they're not trying to mix it up. They're just trying to chill, relax. They kind of have like this gentleman's agreement. Hey, let's take care of each other. But in college, you can't really have that. I mean, in college, man, you still got to go out and get yours. And, our guys are in that NFL mode, and they're soft. I mean, they don't get pushed to block, which is fine. And again, if someone wants to call me out on that, someone from the coaching staff can call me and say, hey, no, we make these guys block, I will turn the tape on. I'll say, show me, because I watch these guys, and that ain't like the olden days. And again, your college is way different from pros. When you're in the pros, I get it. You're making, $48 million a year like Justin Jefferson's probably going to make his next contract, and he doesn't want to blow his shoulder out. But when you're in college, man, put Jaden Ballard in, put X in, put Brandon Innocent, like roll some of those guys out on running plays. Let some of these guys go throw and earn their stripes a little bit. Go throw and extend Trey's run or Chip's run because you knock a corner out of the play, or you take a safety out of the play because you're throwing on them. So I think that that's something that's important. I thought that the snap counts are a little interesting at wide receiver, given, we went a lot of 12 and 13, 2-3 tight end-ish type deals where those guys are coming out the field. It was very interesting, because again, I think I'd leave Marvin and Emeka out there, but make them, get after it a little bit. I think that scouts will notice, guys like George Pickens, George Pickens is one of my favorite players in the league. He's absolutely crazy. And when he's out on the edge for the Steelers, man, he is blowing cornerbacks up, like killing them. So, there's no downside to being a capable, willing blocker, because it just shows that you're all for the team, and the team's the most important thing that you have. Nevada, what are some other things? Defensively, I thought we were fantastic. Again, 3 points, 135-ish yards or whatever it was. Fantastic effort. Even with the triple option, we're going to get into sort of JT's film. What are some other things that you want to see from week 1 to week 2 improve?
Well, first of all, I want to call out a couple of guys that that really didn't get noticed a lot, but gritted out so well, and that's Lathan Ransom and Denzel Burke. Guys that played a lot of snaps and you didn't really hear their name called, and that's a good thing. It means they did their job. They locked guys down. They took away throws. They took away any deep shots. And the defense, again, I know it's Indiana. I know Indiana's bad, but all we can do is talk about who they played against. And in that regard, it's really hard to come up with names of guys that didn't play well. And, they weren't expecting a triple option look. The triple option is very difficult on defenses because it's not a traditional line them up and go and throw type of offense. It presents a lot of unique challenges. It requires a lot of discipline. And frankly, that kind of a game was a perfect game for a guy like Josh Proctor, who likes to run around, who likes to be aggressive, who likes to play downhill. And that's why he flashed. Now, I think it's an open question about how well he's going to do against a wide open passing team. I think we'll get a little bit more about that, frankly, against Western Kentucky, which, I'm telling you, the Penguins, Western Kentucky can throw it a little bit. And we got that game's going to be a little bit more interesting than I think people think. And, they're not bad. So I think, this week we get healthy. Everybody looks good. We're all, cheery. And then Western Kentucky got to get up for that one. And that, especially, it's the week before Notre Dame. So there's every reason in the world to be looking past it, looking to South Bend, and what are we going to be doing there against the? I'm telling you, do not sleep on Western Kentucky because they're not horrible. And we'll talk more about that next week, but they're not bad.
Yeah, well, we're going to go. So JT was the defensive player of the week. So we're going to break down a little bit of stuff this third quarter. We'd already seen the triple option a few times from our guys. Big triple option outfit. Not really, but something that you have to kind of scheme for. So, this was a really nice look. Like, I love the Mike Hall, Tyleek, JT right here. And they were showing this triple option look right here where, you're doing, JT is, he's playing the quarterback here. So you've got, the read where it's a give. JT plays static. They hand it off, JT's got on the quarterback. And, you just look at the fits from the line. Like, Tyleek, they widened out the three technique a little bit. Tyleek is the guy who's fantastic here. Guy that played more snaps than any defensive tackle on the entire team, folks. A guy that a lot of people peg, myself included, peg is out of shape, whatever, it's hot. And he played more snaps than Mike Hall, Tywan Malone, anybody. I mean, Tywan barely played like 5 snaps. But, Tyleek does a really good job here closing down. And it's tough when you don't practice something, it's much tougher. Obviously they're trying to read the three technique here. Because you can see Carter Smith, the old Intangible Liberty product, basically not block the three technique. Like, if you're not blocking the three technique, it's because you're reading them. So when there's contact here, it's an automatic give read. But Tyleek defeats it. And, again, there's a nice shell here of the defense where the running back has nowhere to go. It doesn't matter if you're Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, like, you're done. When you've got this shell around you of Steele and Tyleek, Tommy. And again, I just think that that's good fundamental coaching from Jim Knowles. I think it's block destruction. I think that, again, I think that there's a massive emphasis on the running game this year just because of what happened against Michigan, what happened against Georgia, but especially Michigan. It wasn't some cosmic accident that we came out in 2 tight ends, 12, 13 personnel. 12 is a back and 2 tight ends. 13 is a back and 3 tight ends. That wasn't some accident. We were running that in camp. We were trying to get ready for Michigan. We weren't super successful running it during the game against Indiana, but I think it was a way to, improve the physicality of the offense, kind of help the offensive line, not leave them on edges, not go 5 wide and chuck it and duck it, and just kind of round out what we are good at. Because I think we're going to be really good at throwing the ball, but we have to get that physical makeup back to Ohio State, so back where it was during the Urban era, and it's kind of disappeared over the Ryan Day era because we've been so finesse-based throwing the ball. But again, this is a great picture of Jim Knowles' defense. Again, JT's playing his responsibility. He's got the quarterback. You got a guy out here for the pitch. And again, when you haven't repped triple option, and you got to draw it up on the grease board on the sideline, like that takes a super it takes a great staff. It takes a lot of cognitive play from your defensive players because, triple option's no joke. And if you're not ready for it, again, you look at that Navy game in 2014, Navy ran for like 370 yards versus a defense that won the national championship because we couldn't defend the triple option. So it's not some garden variety thing that a lot of teams run. There's 5, 6 teams in the country that run the triple, and Indiana tried to do it to shorten the game. So, but this is good by JT. He reads his key, he does the right thing. But again, Tyleek's the guy that makes this play. Happy for him because Tyleek has first-round NFL ability, and he's just got to keep climbing up those boards. Nevada, any initial thoughts on that one?
Well, I think one, it pointed to the discipline that the OSU defense is playing with, and shows with the discipline that they're capable of playing with. Two, it shows the advantages of having a guy like Jim Knowles up in the box where you can recognize what they're doing, immediately kind of bring it down, and get the guys lined up properly. Because again, Indiana, we weren't expecting Indiana to be running triple option, and it took a little bit to, you always talk about, hey, it's not the halftime adjustments. You got to be doing adjustments after the drive or inside the drive because the way these games go by, you can't afford to burn a half waiting to have something happen. So no, I think it really gives credit to the senior defensive staff up in the box, recognizing what's going on, identifying the responsibilities for the guys, and the guys plan it out, doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, yeah, and especially now that the games are so short, you get to halftime, it's so quick. You got Jim Knowles up there. Jim Knowles is up in the box. I'm sure he's got his notebook with his little scribble sheet, and he can kind of, talk through the guys out on the sideline. Hey, this is what we need to do. Hey, tell JT to take the, because Larry's down there. I'm not sure what second. I'm sure they've got either Tim or Perry. I think Perry's down. Tim's up. So whoever's down, you got to be very clear. Hey, this is the look. This is the triple look we're getting. Have JT take the quarterback. Have this guy on the running back, and have this guy on the pitch guy. You have a guy for the dive, the Q, and the read and triple. So again, I think it's just really well done. I mean, the staff, again, this is, obviously they're outmanned, but Navy was dramatically outmanned in 2014, and they ran for 370 against us, and these guys barely got 135, and these guys have better players. We got a super chat. Appreciate you, Philip. Nevada, let you take this one. He says, still feels like it should be Brown over McCord now. Do you agree, Nevada?
Do I feel it should be Brown over McCord? Well, let me answer that this way. It's not going to be Brown over McCord this week because they're going with McCord as the starter. I think it'll be even a little bit more. They're going to try to equate the reps out. If it was me, I think that you've got to give Brown the chance. And if McCord got 85% of the snaps last week, I think Brown should get 85% of the snaps this week and kind of evaluate and see what they're doing. Do I think that will happen? No, I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Ryan is committed to McCord for whatever reason, and I think it's going to be tough for Brown to get reps. But my bet is that when Brown gets the reps, he's going to make the most of them, and I think ultimately he ends up being the starting quarterback in Ohio State, and that's coming from behind, man, because you've got McCord who's in that pole position, who's got that starting job, and clearly has got the ear of Ryan Day right now. But I ultimately think it's going to be Devin Brown's athleticism and upside and juice that kind of gets him over the line. So that's my call, but that's a longer term call as the season progresses, and definitely not a this week call.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Brown's got much higher upside. I think that Devin can just do a lot more. I think Kyle, for as much as he's the gunslinger and the guy who makes the right reads, I mean, he was check down Charlie on Saturday, and I don't think that when you see Marvin Harrison running free on a skinny post and he checks it down to Cade for 4 yards, eventually you got to go take the top off the defense, and you got to have the confidence to do it, to push it. I think Devin's athleticism is dramatically better. I think he's a much more twitched up guy. And that helps. Again, we played probably the worst team on our schedule outside of the 1AA teams. And again, I just think that as you get into the Big Ten, on the road loud, you need every weapon you can have. And Devin Brown's legs are a tremendous weapon. I love this. This is a super chat. This isn't really a question, but I'm going to put this up here anyways. Brian, I appreciate you guys. Any super chat automatically gets answered. So if you guys want to know why these are popping up, any super chat you guys send, we automatically answer. Day trying to mimic his daddy Harbaugh. That is cute. I don't know if that's the case, but it sure seems like it. I mean, Harbaugh has whooped us the last 2 years, and going to the 2-3 tight end stuff, that's a lot of what Harbaugh does. So I want to dip back into the film room real quick. Again, JT, defensive player of the game. Denzel Burke, overall player of the game. Again, JT's phenomenal here. Nice, easy play. They're running a little read play where they're reading JT, and JT kind of hedges it. Again, when this isn't coached because you weren't expecting it, he kind of plays both. Generally they say, okay, JT, you got the back, and Steele has the quarterback or whatever. JT kind of plays it in the middle, which is tough, and then the quarterback pulls it, and JT makes a phenomenal play right here for a tackle for a loss. Again, not a sack, not as sexy as a sack or 3 sacks and a forced fumble and a pick 6 and all the stuff he did against Penn State. But this is a very sound play, very high level play from JT Tui Mo Low Owl. And I think that he's really doing some good stuff. And again, the staff agreed. They went defensive player of the game. Stat sheet is not as sexy as a lot of people would like. They'd think, oh, better have 3 sacks, 2 sacks for a DN to get it. But really sound football. In the face of kind of a fog of war, with that first game is always tough because you have no idea what they're gonna do on offense or defense. You know what they did last year, but Indiana coming in, when you're the offense, you're like thinking, well, is it gonna be more what Tom Allen does? Is it gonna be what Matt Gagliani wants to do, or is it gonna be a hybrid of it? Is it gonna be something that worked against Ohio State in the past? Like, are they gonna take scheme from Georgia? Again, there's that first game is always tough because you just never know how a team's going to defend you, especially when you're Ryan Day's offense at Ohio State. Nevada, your thoughts on JT making this play right here?
Well, again, just heads up play really shows his athleticism. As you said, he doesn't play with the classic type of technique, but he's just so fast laterally that he can play in the middle and still make a play like that, make a tackle behind the line. As you mentioned, I think 4 tackles for the game. So not incredible numbers, but just solid defensively, and doing a lot of the little things that you really need for a good defense. And this is what we expected out of the Jim Knowles defense in year 2. We expected a really fundamentally sound, together group that really enjoys playing together and really knows what they're doing, and that's what they look like. Again, it's week 1, it's Indiana, they're bad. But I think the defense is going to be good enough to keep us in every game this year, and that's a good formula because your offense struggles, other things struggles, defense comes every week. You can bring it. I always say, like when I played basketball, like sometimes I had my offensive game, sometimes the shot was falling, sometimes it wasn't. But good defensive play you can bring every single night. And I think this defense is going to travel well. It travels in good weather, it travels in bad weather, it travels in domes, it travels in the grass. And I think it's going to keep us in every game, and that's a great thing.
I totally agree. I think that, the thing I always say, something that was just one of those, there's a Mickey Marotti thing, an Urban thing, a Tressel thing. What travels in November? Because November is for contenders. Obviously, it's September. We got, multiple months to go. We got 7-8 weeks to go before we hit November. But what travels is your defense and your running game. So our defense is ready to go, ready to travel. We're going to break down one more play. Again, I love this look. A guy who's been balling, a guy that you've been really high on, Nevada, and a lot of people weren't as high on him when he committed, and Ohio kid, Malik Hartford right here. This is a guy played a lot. I think he ends up being the starter at his position. You get Davison, kind of off man, kind of one of you're kind of showing blitz 0, and they end up bailing out of it. Because you got Tommy and you got Seal, they bail. He bails deep. But again, this is something I really like. So we were doing a lot of the NASCAR package where we're putting Caden Curry in at defensive tackle with Jack Sawyer and Mike all kind of side by side, and then Caden Curry next to JT. But they leave Tyleek in, which I think that's a nice bone to throw, a guy who made that first play on first down, so he's got a chance to rush the passer. But as you watch this, the guy that makes the pressure here is JT. JT bull rushes Carter Smith right into the quarterback. Again, does he hit the quarterback? No. But you see, the quarterback can feel the pressure coming and hurries it. Bad ball. Davison takes a dive at it. So again, this is a great series by JT. He is great on the option twice. gets the quarterback pressure here. But your thoughts on this and your thoughts on Malik Hartford as he continues to ascend up the depth chart?
Well, with Malik, I would have loved to see him get that interception because it hit him right in the hands, and I'm sure he's going to have nightmares about that one because that would have been so fitting because he's been a ball hawk the entire fall camp. Really been the story as far as I'm concerned in terms of the on the defensive side, the biggest surprise. Just a terrific player, and you know, for him to have, we didn't get a turnover, but for him to have gotten it would have been just poetic justice because he's been worked so hard. You'd like to see guys that get paid off, but no, he's a good player. We're going to see plenty of that in the future, and he just is always around the ball. And when you have guys that are always around the ball, good things happen, and I think a lot of good things are going to be in the future for Malik.
Yeah, I think he's future All-American. I think he's got all the upside in the world. He's a tough kid. He hits like a freight train. Great ball skills, and the most important thing about all this equation is that the coaches trust him. They trust him more so than some of the older guys. So really excited for his future. Nevada, any closing thoughts as we grind towards Youngstown State, the Penguins, on Saturday, noon kick, Big Ten Network? What do you want to see out of the Bucks? What do they need to get better at this week as we get rolling towards Notre Dame?
Well, we've got to establish a running game. We've got to establish an offensive identity. I didn't like what we were doing. We talked ad nauseum about, how many times we're bringing guys into kind of a clogged box. I like to see Ohio State kind of establish that identity of that, that power running set out of the spread and see what they can do. If you're going to bring tight ends in, bring them in, flex them out, do some things, but don't just mass everybody and make your running plays so obvious by distance and by formation. Because I think even against bad teams like Youngstown State, it can get clogged up in there. So I'd like to see them kind of figure some of those things out. Let's get some confidence going, and let's have a better rotation with the quarterback so that at least we get a fair evaluation of both guys going forward. That might probably be the biggest thing. It's the single reason why I'm so excited about watching the game. Normally a game against Youngstown State, you watch them because you watch every game, but this one I'm going to be watching with apt attention because I want to see what Devin Brown can do, and I think everybody wants to see what he can do, and I hope that Ryan Day puts him in a situation to do some good things and gives him a fair chance.
Totally agree. I think it's go time for the offensive line and these guys to go tee off and get after some guys up front. So, well, with that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys enjoyed this content, please click like, click subscribe. Also, check that little dinner bell, and you'll get a little alert every time we go live. Appreciate all of our regulars. Brass Tacks, I see you up in here. My dude, Philip, appreciate you, my man. As always, all you guys that are our regulars, thank you so much for being a part of this. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Put that down in the comments. I've seen Naples, Florida, Manhattan Beach. I've seen Texas, Florida, India, all through Europe, New York, obviously Canton, Ohio, Massillon, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. Shout out where you guys are watching from. And also in your comments, what do you want to see Ryan Day get better at this week? This is kind of a home run derby-ish type of game where you can really go yard versus a vastly inferior opponent. What do you want to see him do? As always, we appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'm going to see you guys on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys aren't members yet, you guys are crazy because our site is crushing it and our message board is fantastic. So I'm about to dive on there for the rest of the night. So I appreciate you guys as always. Go Bucks.